Good morning and welcome to Our Chicago. I'm Judy Sue. More residents visit the Illinois Secretary of State's office than any other in state government. And next year, for the first time in 24 years, someone else will be leading the office. There are two major party candidates seeking to replace current Secretary of State Jesse White, who is retiring. We will be speaking with Democratic candidate Alexi Janulius in our second half today. Joining me right now is Republican State Representative Dan Brady from Bloomington. Brady was sworn into office in January of 2001. Before that, he served 2 terms as the McLean County coroner. He is currently a partner in a funeral home in Bloomington. State Representative Dan Brady, thank you so much for joining us this morning.
Good morning. Thank you, Judy. Nice to be with you this morning.
Nice to see you. And let's start with the same question that we'll be asking both of you. Efficiency for this office. You have said it's a top priority, so has your opponent in this race. If you're elected, what are the specific things that you will do to improve efficiency at DMVs and making those long waits not so long?
Well, there's several things, but one that comes to mind right from the very start is staffing those facilities fully, which haven't been staffed fully in some time. We have a little over 96 facilities, driver motor vehicle facilities across the state of Illinois. So staffing and cross-training, making sure the employees know the dual responsibilities why someone ends up at a facility. Really 2 purposes: driving services or vehicle services is what they need help with. And making sure that we can accommodate both through the training of those employees makes it a better experience on both sides of the counter. So that would be number 1 and very important. And number 2 would be more remote services. How can we take the pressures off some of the most highly impacted facilities across the state of Illinois by remote services? More things such as even kiosks in grocery stores or our libraries. That's the Secretary of State is state librarian. So more remote services, what we can do online, and making it more pleasant experience in that way, and digitally to explore digitally what could be done down the road.
Mr. Brady, in terms of qualifications, what do you bring to the table for the voters that your opponent doesn't?
Well, really a variety of areas of my experience that puts me, I believe, ahead and makes me the best choice to be the next Secretary of State. Number 1, business. My business background in private business and the areas of articles of incorporation and what the business role is of the Secretary of State's office, and e-titling, what we need to do in the state when it comes to vehicle titles, like other states have done and made it a lot easier and more efficient process. Number 2, my county government, where I work very passionately about distracted driving for our teens in particular, and also organ and tissue donation, and a former board member of Gift of Hope, working with Secretary White and working with the Secretary of State's office on organ and tissue donation. Actually being the individuals who work with families regarding organ donation. And number 3, as state representative. As state representative, not only passing legislation in those areas, senior defensive driving courses to help our seniors, but also overseeing and being part of the budgetary process for the Secretary of State's office.
This office is in charge of 21 different departments. It's a really large office. It keeps track of an enormous amount of data and people's personal information. When we're now faced with one data breach after another, what would you do to make sure that people's records and their information are safe?
Well, it is the chief record keeper of the state of Illinois, and one of those areas, as you indicated, is the data that comes with the records. I think number 1, that moving from paper boxes and into the digital world in the 21st century is key. Number 2 is protecting people's identity. When I authored and created the birth and death records electronically in the state of Illinois through legislation, I worked with public health. I worked with the particular provider that provides those services now, all while protecting personal identities and very delicate information. The same needs to be applied in the Secretary of State's office. I have the experience in which to not only do that, but I've accomplished that in other areas and forms of government.
Mr. Brady, you have also said that you want to temporarily cut license plate renewal fees. Your opponent calls that fiscally irresponsible. He says that you don't have a plan to how the state would make up for the lost revenue. Do you have a plan for that?
I do have a plan for that. Number 1, let's look at where we're at in these high inflationary times right now. One of the things I've heard across the campaign trail is, could you also cut those lines? And in addition, could you help us with fees? You know, people are making decisions right now, whether it's their medicine, whether it's their groceries, or whether it's gas in the car. The 2 cents reduction in the gas tax is set to expire at the end of this year. That will put another $135 million into the road fund of the state of Illinois, which I might add has on an average daily basis anywhere from 1.3 billion with a B dollars or more. Yes, there may be some reduction and a gap that needs to be made up, but I believe it can be done managing-wise through not only the Secretary of State's office, but the actual overall budget of the state as well. So I do have a plan, and I think that's really important to look at when that gas tax, the few cents, expires at the end of the year, and when the grocery tax expires. The legislation I filed in House Bill 5821 picks up for 2024 to help the consumer, the men and women, the hardworking men and women across this state that are paying $151 for a license renewal sticker. We can do better than that, and we can make up the difference where the hole is going to be.
That is our time here this morning. Thank you so much for joining us, State Representative Dan Brady.
Thank you very much. Pleasure to be with you as always.
Yeah, thank you. And after a short break here, we will talk with the Democratic candidate for Illinois Secretary of State, Alexi Giannoulias.
Hey, if you like that video, be sure to subscribe to our ABC7 Chicago YouTube channel.